gone live. A very good morning to all our esteemed panelists and friends who are watching us live on the YouTube. Welcome to this virtual roundtable. Microfocus presents IT in the post-COVID world. We have very distinguished IT thought leaders on the panel today and a great opportunity to learn from their experiences. I shall introduce them as we go along. I'm very excited to be facilitating the discussion today. But before I do that, let me wear my analyst's hat and set the context for the discussion. We at Coeus Age conducted a research in June this year among 230 CXOs, and the theme that emerged was that of DX or digital transformation momentum being punctuated or affected. We further built a debate on that theme among 21 industry thought leaders who all collectively agreed that though budgets are cut and reprioritized, keeping in mind the COVID lockdown, in many other ways, digital transformation has in fact been catalyzed. There are many digital aspects that are being put to use in the enterprises today, and a lot of digital has been experienced by the enterprise. The top management is more aware and in favor of digital transformation. The survey was done at a time when businesses were responding to the pandemic. But today, in my opinion, there are three critical priorities that every business and IT leader must address. One, the businesses are looking at regaining their growth momentum and building strategic capabilities that will help them thrive in the future. How can IT help? Two, businesses are planning or maybe even already opened up. So there is this whole gamut of activities that is required to assure safety of people. And three, they are all looking at building agility, resilience, and efficiency into IT operations for supporting the first two priorities. The demand on IT to respond with speed, to engage with customers, support remote working, and ensure physical safety is very high today. New lessons need to be learned on how to build IT management and operations and design applications and deploy them for the new normal that is settling down fast in businesses. And that's exactly what we are going to do today. We are going to collectively learn new lessons. With those few words, let me now invite my panelists to share their perspectives. In order to make the most out of the time available to us, I will request each panelist to speak for 5-6 minutes to share their views on the three priorities, on their experience during the COVID lockdown, important lessons learned, and how do they see those lessons being panning out over the next 6 to 12 months. Once they have all shared their perspectives, we'll open it for discussion. With those few words, let me invite our first panelist today, Mr. Yogesh Kumar, who is the head of IT and business applications and also the CISO for Tata Power Strategic Engineering Division. Mr. Kumar has 16 years of IT, cybersecurity, Oracle, ERP, and SAP experience in large and multi-locational organizations. He is currently working as head IT and business applications and CISO at the Tata Power Company Limited, the Strategic Engineering Division. So with that, let me invite Mr. Yogesh Kumar on the screen. Mr. Kumar, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. So we have gone through this stage, and now we must be ready towards the new future and adopt the new world, basically. So for the last many months, the organizations, every organization basically had gone to a different transformational stage, and we are into defense. So for defense, it was very difficult to get onto the remote side and adhere all these guidelines and still survive in the business. But yes, we have also learned, and we were not initially ready. We made ourselves ready within a small span of time, and we were able to execute, uh, and we were able to make the employees working from home and achieve their targets in time. So to speak, there are many things which were required to be learned. So first one that I want to put into the words is the technology. So we should adopt the right technology to work from home or work from office or work from anywhere. Now there is no work from home also; it's work from anywhere now. So we have to focus on the right technology based on our requirements. We should not adopt many technologies and still figure out what is the best way to achieve the work from anywhere or work from office. So there must be a smooth function between these two. So first is the tools and technology. Second thing is the security. Security was the foremost concern for all the companies when the employees were working from anywhere, because they were no more governed about the central gateway, and they, they were not into the intranet of the company. So still we have to work towards the safety and security of the employee. So, for security perspective, I would say we have to make our employees or task force or the stakeholders, whatever you say. So they must be knowing about the culture of the organization. They must be aware about the security of the organization, how to take care of the security, what to inform, what to not inform, where to click, where not to click. Those things must be kept in mind. So, despite technology, there are 100 technologies around the world which can claim that they will protect you, but no, none of the technology will 100% protect. Still, human alignment, human factor will come. So, we have to be very sure about that. So, we have to make our employees strengthen towards that. Third thing that I would like to talk about, the phase that we had undergone till now. So we should assess whether it will continue for long, or it will end after pandemic ends. So we have to make ourselves aligned accordingly, so that there are a smooth transition again if such kind of thing occurs in future. So I would never say that it should occur, but you never know when it can occur, and when another pandemic or another situation can come. So uh, we should be ready towards such transitions in future also. So this is the what we have thought of, and what I ask the thought leaders to focus. The fourth thing that I want to focus on, during the pandemic situation, the employees were at home. So many of the employees were even single, and they were not having any support. This was the situation when their mental health was also a concern. So going forward, we should take care of those mental health also. We should engage them properly, and we should ensure that their mental health is proper. We should assess it, by the way. So there are many methods through which we can assess, and we can talk to them personally. So their boss or their leaders and the HR, they have primary role into it. Now, as far as working environment is concerned, we are coming back to the working environment. So in the working environment, we have to make that working environment ready, and we should make it like that, that there are no safety and security concerns, specifically towards the pandemic. How to take care about the social distancing, how to take care about the wearing mask, not wearing mask, or sanitizing those things, and what about their health. So there are tools and technologies which can help you out to figure out what are the number of employees, or how many number of employees are still affected or still having some suspension towards the this pandemic. So daily health monitoring is very essential now for every organization. So in the organization, there are spaces where we can make themselves sit aligned, and we can keep social distancing. We can align our meeting rooms. We can allow the employees to work from their desk and come into the meeting still, and they join from there itself, so that there are no violation towards the uh, social distancing norms. So these are the few things that we should take care, and most of the organizations are taking care of it. So I will say that right tools and technologies and human element, both are very very important. We cannot leave any a single thing uh, and go ahead with those kind of transformations. Over to you, Dr. Sir.
I think that was very, very holistic, and you touched upon very important questions that every CIO or a CISO must be grappling with. How do you kind of choose the right technology, the right tools, so it is efficient, effective, and does what is required? And of course, the other side is the people side, where how can you be more empathetic and help the people cope with the stress of pandemic or living alone in isolation. It's not so easy. So coming to office, working with teams, people has its own impact on human psychology. But if you're working alone, and there is bound to be stress. So thank you so much for sharing your perspectives. I'll come back with you. Come back to you once we have listened to the other three gentlemen. And my question to you will be that what does it mean to IT operations and business application? Does it mean that we kind of adopt more automation, embrace a higher level of emerging techs like artificial intelligence and machine learning, so that these imperatives can be met? But I'll come back to you once we have listened to the opening remarks from the others. Yeah. Thank you so much,
Okay.
Mr. Kumar.
Thanks.
So with that, we come to our next speaker. I take uh, pleasure in inviting Mr. Jayanta Bomik, who is the Group CIO for Keshoram Industries Limited. Uh, he's an electrical engineer with almost 3 decades of progressive IT experience, having strong leadership background in managing global enterprise IT, setting up and running captive and shared service centers. So, with those few words, I invite Mr. Bomik. Mr. Bomik, the stage is yours.
I'm really glad, and I look forward to get enlightened by the discussion in this forum. Um, so, with respect to the views that we are looking forward to, see, we are today, all of us are looking forward to an IT landscape which is supposed to be, which is expected to be available anytime, anywhere, seamlessly. And this pandemic has actually raised the bar, and this is a no-brainer that any organization today needs to have infrastructure and applications to be available to all in business and stakeholders anywhere, anytime. But with that, this COVID pandemic has brought the challenge of the availability of infrastructure, bandwidth, the technology, the agility of the organization, and the IT teams to connect all these dots and allow the business going in this situation, as rightly also mentioned by our earlier panelist, that it's not about only work from home, it's working from anywhere. So we have this challenge of evolving in this situation and ensure that not only our platforms to be made available to everybody from everywhere, anytime, every time, but also it needs to be available in a secure manner. The security has come into place because the boundary of office, boundary of data center, boundary of our application landscape has been blurred. So, I mean, we can talk about secure access, we can talk about extending VPNs to everybody, and also agility in bandwidth and the applications to be performing well in all these situations. But it's not so straightforward and easy. As we pass through this pandemic, we have seen that the demand from everybody, not only from industry but also from the households and the entire population on the bandwidth, has gone many times. Has gone up many times, and that has brought the challenge of not only ramping up the infrastructure agility, but also making sure everything is available, just when we decide. But looking at the telecom scenario in this country, we know how difficult it is. As such, telecom industry is struggling, so they cannot make the bandwidth available at the beck and call of customers, and there is a lead time, there is a infrastructure challenge, and all that. So within the limitation of all these, we had to, reinvent ourselves, our working model, and ensure people not only work from anywhere, but they are able to operate efficiently. They're able to not only work, but also they need to meet, need to have discussion meetings, audio, video, and at the same time, the crucial for listed public companies, the crucial board meetings and AGMs and all that need to be ensured by the IT team. So, challenge to the IT and technology teams are manifold today. So I talked about bandwidth, I talked about infrastructure agility, talked about data center. Moving to cloud doesn't solve everything. I know you also have to have the seamless operation in this situation, and also the security, the question of security. At the same time, this change of operational mode would not be that seamless to everybody as we IT teams might think. It would be challenging to legacy population. It will be challenging to population from the manufacturing, from the plants, factories. They were also expected to catch up, but the usual change resistance is there in legacy environments. And with that, the roadmap of usual IT projects which were lined up, which were planned, both strategic and also tactical, had to be initiated, executed, completed with success. So, interesting and challenging times. Um, we we faced the challenges of technology availability, agility, flexibility, speed of execution, making sure the security is not compromised. And with all that, we need to keep the motivation of IT teams at a very high level because in order to deliver and perform at that level with these new challenges, uh, each and every one needs to be motivated. And that's not easy because of the situation and not all the organizations have coped and adjusted to the situation well. But within this situation, within this challenge, we IT community needed to be calm and always on the edge, delivering, keeping our composure and our level of delivery performance levels to the expectation of business. So that's how thoughts came in my mind as we are going through this situation. And of course, in the process, we have evolved as a team, as an ecosystem, and interesting and challenging times, but at the same time rewarding as well. That's all I had to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baumik. That indeed was very, very profound. And I think you have, in a very short span of time, defined, very, very articulated in a very effective way the emerging role of a CIO. So, sorry, there is a power cut here. So, yeah. So, in the emerging role of a CIO, and what is that? That is to build a seamless infrastructure application environment, manage operations in a way that it enables anytime, anywhere working, and also keep people motivated and aligned with the bigger goal. What I also liked about what you spoke is the concept of boundary, and I think that's a very, very profound concept and something that has implication on the operational makeup of an organization, the IT landscape, the IT architecture of an organization, and also the organizational structure that is going to evolve. So I think that's a very relevant topic that you touched upon, and you also talked about how only cloud may not be the solution. How do you kind of weave cloud and existing in-prem applications in hybrid mode so that they work together seamlessly? So thank you so much for those opening remarks. I'll come back to you after we have the other panelists share their initial remarks, and we'll take this discussion. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So with that, let's come to our third speaker, and he is Mr. Farhan Khan, who is Senior Vice President IT at Radico Khaitan Limited, a blockchain and Prince2 certified professional and IT business transformation specialist with project management expertise, offering 24 plus years of multi-domain core IT experience in IT operations planning and management across multiple sectors. So with those few words, I invite Mr. Farhan Khan on the screen. The screen is yours, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Saf. I think most of the points have been covered by my previous speakers, Mr. Jayanta and Mr. Yogesh. So if I would say that if you look at the IT history or the journey from 2000 and till 2020, we started with ERP, then CRM has also been added, and then the different applications has added into it. The year of 20 we were going in a when we were going in a pace where the most traditional applications and the new age applications were merging together, and they are getting the space in IT landscape in different organizations. If you look at it at 20 or maybe the December 2019, manufacturing sector is basically, if I may share with you that it's a combination of new age technology and the legacy applications that we need to carry. Reason, it could be the applications or maybe the machines that we are using at the factory level are in a such a way that we have to carry certain legacy application into a different way and in different means. Now, once the lockdown happens, means the COVID started and the lockdown happens, that means my factory is locked, my offices are locked, and legacy application is something that nobody can think of, that this legacy is also will be applicable or maybe accessible to outside factory, or maybe they will allow to have a work from home in a scenario. So the challenge, which comes to it. Now, if we see the priority which has been set by Dr. Kapil, of course, the post-COVID now, the growth, how to regain a growth, is something which is a very important discussion which is happening with the management. Now, when we see it, we also see that the post-COVID, the behaviors also changes. In my industry, specifically the liquor industry, the pack mix ratio is very important when we sell it. We sell it in 180 ml, 375 ml, and 750 ml, and of course there are 90 ml also. Post-COVID, people are not going for a lower size; they are going for a higher size, which is 750 and 375. And of course, after that, liquor is being called as a economy saver and all these things. The most of the state government has increased duties. So the moment we increase the duties, my MRP is also gone up. And from there, the regular brand, the person who is using a regular brand, he moved to some different brand, which is more cheaper than this because of the duty has increased. His purchase power is limited. So looking at the purchase power, he is buying different products, which doesn't come into that category that he is buying in the past. So the challenges in gaining a growth is behaviors, consumer behaviors, which is going to change the consumption pattern and all. And of course, the alignment of IT with respect to getting into the planning, which will help them to figure it out in what state, what kind of brands are performing, and what kind of size is basically going into a high demand. So these are the things basically which changes the whole application setup, your demand setup, and of course your factory setup also, because producing same kind of brand into a different line, it's one of the capacity which basically has to fix with the state government. So for example, let's say we are producing 750 ml, we need a different set of lines. If there is a demand which comes for 180 ml, so we have a different set of machine for it, and of course the capacity also to be linked with this. The moment my consumption change, my production capacity also has to be linked with this, because I need to align the customer at the end of the day. Zero planning is a new concept which has come. A zero-based planning. That means expenses which is being asked by the management or approved by the management, whether it is marketing or IT or anything related to product and support functions, has been cut, and there is a different meanings to it. Looking at the expenses which is happening in a different in a different department. So zero based planning has been introduced, which has a different meaning out of it. So marketing trend has also changed. Uh, the IT, of course, I think, as Dr. Kapil has said, uh, the budgets are not allowed to used. They have been frozen, and whenever there is a new expansion which is going to become, which has, of course, there is a committee also being made which will allow to use those budget. And of course, till 2019 you are going in a tradition way. 20 is a year where everything has changed, the perceptions has changed, consumers patterns has changed. So the entire impact will come into IT as well. That how we are going to make sure that the things has to reach to the customer, and we need to market to reach is basically something which is going to be more faster than the past. Of course, the digital transformation, which was having a very slow speed, and or maybe it was on a backside, now it's a front runner. There are a number of digital transformations which is happening in different departments, and everybody needs to it. And of course, as Mr. Jayanta has said, if infrastructure is not agile, connectivity within the organization or collaboration within the organization will become a very difficult point. Of course, this is something which is very important prospect with with all set of things. The second thing, which and the last thing, which is very important for a factory environment, controlling a workforce and making sure that they are using the safety norms, and at the same time, the productivity should not be should not be compromised. Working in a different environment, it's a big challenge, because you need to keep monitor your employees. Means with monitoring means you need to check a temperature, their safety norms, whatever the norms means the government has come up with. And of course, the awareness, there is something called awareness, because if you go to the level where the factories is being built and the people those are coming, they are not so resourceful, where you can go and tell them that you have to use alcohol based sanitizer. This is how you have to go, you have to use the tunnel. And there are a lot of issues initially with the tunnel also, because this kind of chemical to be used or that kind of chemical to be used, but somehow it has been settled down. And now we, so the safety of people those are working at a factory level, of course, corporate being access for all kind of information or all kind of resources is very easy, but at a factory level, providing them and telling them and educating them all kind of uh, the compliance that has to be made was a bit of difficult point, and we need to basically hire few people just to make sure that the things are happening at this level. So I believe that the tradition expenses which was happening post COVID has changed into a different dimensions, and digital transformation is something which is now acceptable terms with everyone, and even management is looking for what kind of digitalizations that we are doing in a different department. So Rakshap, this is from my side.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. That was, in fact, very interesting, insightful, and I think you brought in the perspective of a manufacturing setup, an industry that is highly regulated, and nicely articulated the implication of the regulations on the operational setup, and IT has to respond to that. And on top of that, there is this pandemic and the crisis. And I think I quite like the topic of legacy that you talked about, that it is not that if there is pandemic and we can't do with legacy, you throw it away and build something fresh. You cannot do that. You have to extend the legacy itself into working fine with the imperatives that are emerging fast, and has to enable working anywhere, anytime. Of course, a factory setup has its own limitations in terms of extending working anywhere, anytime, and there are different challenges with respect to the type of people there, and the challenges that come in dealing with them. So thank you so much. I think you added a new dimension to the whole perspective that was shared by the earlier two panelists. So I'll request you to wait for some time when we listen to Mr. Sandeep Sadhu Khan, and then I'll invite all of you to come and we kind of have a discussion taken further to this. So thank you, Mr. Khan. Our next speaker is Mr. Sandeep Sadhu Khan from Microfocus. And Mr. Sandeep Sadhu Khan is the country manager for territory sales at Microfocus. He's a customer-centric business leader with diverse skill set and experience in handling complex business transformation with almost 2 decades of IT sales experience. As an individual, he loves to enable others to thrive in their business roles, build and manage high-performing teams, a result-driven independent thinker capable of creating innovative solutions, the sole motto of his life being, how may I help you today? So, Mr. Sadhu Khan, you have heard the three gentlemen speaking about very interesting and relevant perspectives that they have seen from their experience. If you were to talk about how IT player like Microfocus has to come and solve these problems, how would you help them today?
Sure. Thanks, Kapil. Uh, and that was a quite long introduction, but thanks for it. See, I would like to look at it this way. And I'll bring in a bit of what our customers have been saying, what I've heard the panelists today say, and in some of the earlier events as well, where I see that there are a few common threads, a few common lines of thought, if I were to put it that way. Uh, if I were to start from the beginning, uh, just give me a second. So, uh, you know, one of the things that I think that nobody envisaged when this whole thing started in December, January timeframe, is that this is going to stay for very long. I think everybody started with the feeling that this is just like any other situation that we have faced many other times earlier, like SARS or any of those other infections that had come, and everybody was thinking that it would possibly be a matter of a few weeks, but then it started being dragged into months, and now we're probably looking into quarters and years ahead of us, where we will need to look at how do we manage businesses. So I think we all started with the fact that everybody was shocked. The first challenge was, can we keep lights on? And then when we realized that that this is for going to be for a long time, then we started thinking about how do we change, how do we adapt to this new scenario. Uh, and I think what I've heard today and what I've heard earlier, as well as with many of our customer engagements, is that the IT has now been pushed into the center of the whole discussion. The daily working, the survival of the company is now back on IT, because it is that one team which is working seamlessly across teams, trying to do everything possible, which is like right from keeping lights on to moving on to addressing the new business challenges, the new ways of working. Like some of our panelists said today, it's not only about work from home or work from anywhere. It is about being able to provide infrastructure, the ability to be accessible from anywhere and at any point in time. And to add to that complexity, probably any kind of device that you would think of, which could be a mobile device, which could be somebody who bringing in their own devices, which could be a plethora of combinations. Like in our last meeting, some of the panelist has also informed us that initially they started by shipping the desktops from the office to respective people's residences, and then realizing that not everybody is equipped to keep a desktop at home and work from there. So and then obviously some people had worked through this much earlier, not because of the pandemic, but as a forward looking statement, and looked at having only laptops as a policy. Now, different industry, different companies have addressed it differently, but I think the primary thing was to look at being able to function from any possible place. And a beautiful statement that Jayanta made today is the boundaries of data centers and offices have got blurred. The fact that there isn't any concept of an office anymore, and probably in the future, many companies would want to continue in this fashion of being able to work flexibly and being able to do things in a completely different manner. And we've heard many organizations announce that probably 75% of their workforce would never come back. May not necessarily apply to the manufacturing industry, and I get it, but then other than that, there is a whole lot of others who are doing it. The other thing which stands out, which comes across time and again in every discussion, is how do we address the security part of it? Because suddenly, when there is no office, when there is no data center, then security becomes paramount. And with it also becomes, what becomes important is this new age applications which are coming up now. How are those applications going to be secure? How are those applications going to be made available? How can we crunch the time to the market? How can we ensure that in this new world we are able to deliver on time? One of our earlier panelists in the last discussion was talking about how they were able to help the government come out with an app for tracking people movement during this pandemic time, when this whole lockdown was enforced. So to me, I think what I've seen over these last few months is, what is important obviously is, of paramount importance, is how do we ensure people can work anywhere, anytime, across devices? How can that be secured? How can we ensure that security does not become, or a data loss does not become a issue? And how do we address the newer markets? Like I think Farhan was mentioning, the packaging has maybe changed, or my market might have changed, and how do we address those markets? In fact, one of the things that I was reading, and I'm not 100% sure, but I think there are some states where liquor is now being it's planned that liquor would probably get delivered through an online experience. That is something that involves policy change, that would involve developing of an application that can validate stuff, and then there's a whole infrastructure behind it, and a whole information data capture behind it, which needs to happen. Open banking, for an example, is something that has come up in the recent few quarters. So all of these, if I had to look at it and then look at how do we at Microfocus look at all of this, we've always kept the customers' requirements, the customers' um, you know um, view in mind at always. If I were to look at just one of the pillars that we have, which is application delivery and application management, the few core themes that we follow is, one is of extreme automation. How can we ensure that RPA, artificial intelligence, machine learning, are things that the industry can use to derive better value out of the automations that they're doing? Because just plain simple automation as they used to be done historically is no longer what people are looking at. People are looking at, how do I increase productivity with lesser number of people being available? Today, many industries have deal with the fact that they may never have the full workforce together in the office. But then productivity requirements are going up by the day. With every single day, the requirement to be more productive, to be able to do more with less, is coming up. The second is about how do we provide an omni-channel experience to our users, whether they are the internal users, whether they are the external customers. In many manufacturing industries, the external customers would mean the suppliers and the vendors, because they are also operating in a remote manner. And in those situations, how do we have an experience that not only delights them but also helps the business run equally well? One of our panelists was talking about how some of these food delivery companies are now talking about bringing a new line of business, which is bringing the local grocery store into play. So how do we have a channel which is able to connect to a local grocery store and update stocks, so that when a customer is ordering, it doesn't end up in a wrong experience of the food not being delivered or the grocery not being delivered? uh, Things which have not been done earlier, things which people are now thinking in this new world. The fact that we need to be agile all the time. Today banks are doing online KYCs. As I had talked about, liquor companies are also thinking about a B2C application. These are things that are new, that need to hit the market fast, and will probably not be done in a traditional manner. The fourth thing is, the performance engineering. What we are experiencing repeatedly is the need to have extremely high performance engineering capabilities, because the loads that have been now suddenly put on many systems have not been conceptualized earlier. Even plain simple communication devices, the way we are conducting meetings, the way everything is now remote, is not something that people had conceptualized. Even somebody was talking about VPN. I don't think most of the companies or most of the organizations thought about a load which is as severe as it is today. And maybe VPN is not the right way to do it. And I'm not an expert on that, but I'm just saying that those are the thoughts that that people are coming up with. And the underlying part about all of this is, whatever we want to do, all of this has to be done at a lesser cost. Cost takeout is a major challenge that everyone is today facing. uh, and at Macrofocus, our lines of businesses today are primarily around IT operations management, which is what comes into the picture when you're talking about infrastructure being available, and for you to be able to have analytics around your infrastructure. The application delivery management, which is all about how you make your applications suit the current environment, the current business requirements. Security is one of the third pillar, and then we have Vertica, which cuts across, providing analytics. So that is, Kapil, a brief about how do we align. Um, we always look at these opportunities as learning opportunities, as opportunities where we listen to our customers, listen to industry leaders, and maybe go back and make changes as and when required. So that, Kapil, is what I had to present or say as an initial thought. We could definitely go back to our panelists and listen to them once again as to whether these thoughts rhyme with what they think are the challenges, and take it from there.
Sure. Thank you, Sandeep. And I think that was very, very uh, uh, succinct and complete in terms of highlighting the various pillars of service that Microfocus provides, the application development, deployment management, building agile apps, and of course the whole issues around performance engineering. And what will stick with me for long is the fact that we require IT infrastructure and applications that are not only secured but also has the right speed and the ability to scale up as and when required. So thank you so much, and I think the time has come when I should invite all my panelists on the screen so that we can have a quick round of discussion on what we have spoken so far. So I think if I put together all the perspectives that have been given by four of you, it is a lot of wisdom and lot of intelligence. So you talked about the need for security, the need for managing people with empathy, of course, looking at the organizational boundary and what implication does it have on the ITI infrastructure and applications design, the need for speed, scalability, and of course, security. Looking at cloud and in-prem applications working together so that there is a seamless play for anytime, anywhere availability of IT and IT applications. So, I mean, it kind of informs me as an analyst. I'm very very delighted. It also brings in a set of new questions, and let me kind of highlight that question. And I think I shared that one of that question after Mr. Yogesh Kumar had completed his initial thoughts. What role do you think the automation and newer technologies like artificial intelligence and machine learning will play in doing all that you said is required to be done with respect to IT infrastructure, operations, and applications? Uh, so we can start with anyone who wants to come in and share his perspectives.
So, okay, please.
Yeah. So, Mr. Khan, you can go first.
Yeah, I think we have seen in the past there are technology which are coming, and there are technologies which are coming and getting into a space of our enterprise architecture. I believe ML and artificial intelligence is a technology which is, of course, going to be part of our enterprise architecture very shortly. The reason being the kind of benefits, of course, we need to look at from the business perspective, because IT is where we need to see that how this business is going to be adopted. So bring your own device is something which comes. There are few organizations who has gone out for it, but somehow in few, if you look at the few organizations, they have not gone for BOIT. But they cannot get away from RPA or ML or artificial intelligence. If you look at my industry, we have settled this, one of the Asia's largest factory in 1953 in Rampur. So there is a legacy applications which is all around, and we cannot go out of it. I think that we already discussed. But if you look at this ML and artificial intelligence along with the RPA, a combination of legacy application will help me to see how this business is going to be different departments. So basically, these are in one way these are the one of the supporting application, and maybe in some area in some function these are the front end application which will, let's say, getting into the customer engagement and all. There is RPA and ML is a front end application. You should observe that this is for sure in our landscape, not in today for RPA and ML. I'm using it, means after POC we got into it now. So I'm sure that is going to be part of our enterprise architecture very soon.
Okay, so what I hear you saying, Mr. Khan, is that these technologies have relevance in allowing you to do things that you want to do, and they will have, surely they may be being used as point applications today, but somewhere down the line they will be embedded as part of your core infrastructure and applications.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Kumar, would you like to share something on that?
Yes, Dr. Saab. So I would like to touch upon two perspectives. So there are two things primarily. One is the process, another is data. So every activity in IT or non-IT, it is based out of two main perspective. First
Yes.
is the process, another is data. Okay.
Data.
So when we talk about the process and when we talk about the day-to-day activities, how do we find time to carry out those activities in a effective manner? So then it comes as a automation. Automation comes into picture if we want to we don't want to kill our time in carrying out those petty day-to-day activities which are time consuming, which are basically repetitive in nature. So we should automate those activities. So when I talk about IT perspective, then in IT support, there are many activities which can be performed through automation. So there can be thousands of activities which can be identified from our previous experiences. Similarly, in ERP and other business applications, there are things which can be performed, which can be achieved through automation. So this we have to identify down the lines, and as per our industry, we have to identify the processes which we can automate. Now, for example, we carry out the payments. So in carrying out payments, there is a fixed cycle or fixed number of steps which can be performed through the RPA also. So robotic process automation is getting pace into the industry. So primarily because there are many things which are repetitive in nature and which can be easily addressed by this technology. The second thing that and I come to the data perspective. So when we talk about a device, when we talk about any process, when we talk about anything into the world, whether it is mobile, non-mobile, so everything generates data ultimately. And data is the thing that comes into the picture how to handle now. We have lot of data now, but handling that data becomes a challenge. So data, we think that we can process the earlier data, we just take time and we try some processes. Meanwhile, we again generate lot of data. So in order to address that, AI is the technology which can address these data processing, right? So in short, I will say if data is new oil, then AI is the technology to address it.
Hmm.
Okay, so
Yeah.
in order to address the challenges in handling the data, AI had come up with various things, various models, various technologies inside, and now we learn about the NLP, natural less language processing, neural networks, and these helps us to have predictive analysis. So we are not more and basically aligned towards the analysis only. Now world is moving towards the analytics. So analysis, we have done lot of analysis, but now we want to move towards the predictive analysis. What is that analysis or analytic help us to improve in future? That is what we are interested in. Now,
Absolutely.
with the help of robotics, with the help of AI, with the help of virtual reality, we can very well achieve many functions in our manufacturing or any other industry, right? So, if we talk about the AI as a technology, then it comes into the processing of that data. It requires lot of computing at the back end.
Hmm.
So lot of computing cannot be achieved in our in-house infrastructure. It is something required at a very large scale, very big one. So now when we talk about this thing, then cloud comes into the picture. So cloud is the technology which can address this computing problem for us, because now cloud is no more an option for us. Everybody is having or exposed to the cloud, willingly or unwillingly. They have to be there onto the cloud, right? So
Absolutely.
right, so we are addressing those things to the cloud. Now cloud is also having a certain limitations towards expanding the infrastructure at a scale. So we are looking at the new technology, that is the quantum computing. So quantum computing, if it comes to a good shape, then we would be able to address uh, large computing requirement with small infrastructure also.
Yeah.
So these are the few future trends that we are looking at. And when these technologies will come, then we should not leave the data privacy and the security concerns. So data is there, we are processing, but how we are processing, where we are processing, what we are processing, all those things comes into the picture. So data privacy we cannot leave. So now world is very specific towards the data privacy concerns. So post GDPR came into the picture. Other countries are looking into it seriously. Even in India, we are coming up with new laws. So data privacy was also a big concern for us. Applicability
Sure.
is
Yeah.
so.
So we'll come to these things little later maybe. What I liked about your talk, Mr. Kumar, is the fact that you talked about two domains. One is process, another is data, and I would say that somewhere how these two will converge together is also going to be very, very interesting. If process produces data, then data will also trigger processes, and that is where we are talking about the building autonomous systems, where the systems can be self regulating, self healing, and self operational. A quick word from Mr. Bomik. You will have to unmute yourself, sir. Yeah.
Okay. Now, this is a no-brainer. We all have to embrace automation and analytics and AI and ML, but we have to be applying reasoning and coming from manufacturing and from legacy businesses. We understand that, of course, we can reap good benefits from the integration and interfacing of shop floor through automation and ML. We can definitely, benefit from that by increased productivity, by intelligent use of RPA and AI. Of course, analytics will help us in smarter decision making. So we need to be very, very, the options are now evolving. We need to be very smart and intelligent in taking the calls, where to apply and where to interface, because too many options and too many use cases might derail your thoughts, not only confuse you, but also your legacy way of doing business cannot be transformed and revolutionized overnight, or rather, over a month or over a year. It's a journey. It's an evolution that we need to go through, and we need to see. There are a lot of interfacing challenges in ML, and unless we work and plan judiciously, we won't benefit. And in the name of technology, we can name something we have done, but we may not be able to reap good benefits and show the results to the business. That's the key word in this. Whatever we do, we need to show results to the business and the ROI. Uh, Other than that, we all are technology people, would love to talk technology, would love to implement technology. End of the day, it doesn't have business benefits and ROI. It doesn't mean anything to my stakeholders, my business stakeholders.
Yes.
So we need to be very judicious.
Yeah.
Where actually it plugs in, uh, what actually would be my approach, and in what priority, in what sequence. That's very important in any evolving situation like this, or like in so many breakthroughs we have seen in technology in the past, and we are going to experience. We need to be judicious in selection, in planning and execution. But it's, as I said, it's a no-brainer. We have to embrace, but we need to be really prioritizing well, executing well, and gel well with business in proper sort of buy-in, integration, and adaptation. That's the keyword. Uh, Otherwise, it will stay within the IT domain, will not get any buy-in.
Yeah, I think very aptly put. I think it has to fit the purpose. There are many technologies, but each technology has to be redefined in terms of the context in which it will be used. Uh, we have already overshot the time. Let me take the liberty of maybe taking 2 or 3 more minutes before I invite Mr. Sadhu Khan to kind of sum it up. A quick word on you have three of you have very nicely, in fact, four of you have very nicely articulated what is technology, what it can do, how it is going to move. A quick word on where is your organization on this journey. So, are you kind of already set on? I'm sure you are. Uh, where do you see the organizational energy is going in the next 6 to 12 months? Maybe quickly, if you can take 30 seconds and answer this.
If I can start, our priorities for
Yeah.
this year uh, is our forthcoming cloud migration. We are moving our ERP from our IBM colocation to Amazon Cloud. While doing
Oh,
that,
wow.
we are also going to migrate from ECC to S4HANA. That's a dual project, and that's going to take our bandwidth for this year. But at the same time, while doing that, we are going to introduce certain process automation through RPA, and at the same time, we are going to upgrade certain interfaces. There are many business and stakeholder ecosystem interfaces we're going to upgrade. So this, in short, would take our digital bandwidth this year. At the same time, we are going to also upgrade our bank integration from this thing from offline to online integration. So these all would be my primary priorities for this year. Uh, but there are roadmaps. As we succeed and execute, we will catch on with the next bandwagon that uh, that would wait for us.
Wonderful. Yeah, wonderful. Mr. Kumar, maybe if you can quickly share where are you on the journey and next 6 to 12 months, how it is going to be.
So we are working towards the RPA and identifying the processes which we can really automate, and we are coming up with some few applications with the chatbots where we can provide the help to the users with the help of chatbots without killing their time towards booking into means complaining lodging complaints and getting that rectified. So if they can quickly get answers through the RPA or through these chatbots, then it will be
Wonderful.
better. So these are the
Wonderful. Mr. Khan.
Sorry, Dr. So most of my application, even business critical application, is on cloud, other than ERP that I'm using as of now. So through hardware refresh, I think I will also move out from hosting to a cloud. That is not this year, maybe 2 more years to go. Other than this, the focus is more on security as of now, and especially the mobile securities and the data protection that we are focusing on. Of course, RPA is on top priority as of now. We are identifying different departments who are looking for developing RPA. AI and ML, we are working at a different factories that we have all across India, how we can use it, and of course to link with our few legacy application which we are using for the fermentation and different processes where we are not getting the signals out. So these application will help us through IoT to make it more productive, those equipments. Of course, mobility, we have started few application, means almost for 18 months now. So mobility is another focus for the next 6 to 12 months. Because we are not allowed to have, to run any kind of program for the customers. But somehow we have asked to come up with some kind of loyalty programs to run. So this is also we are looking for mobilities and all. So these are the 4 key points that we are going to derive for the next 6 to 12 months.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing, sir. Uh, it indeed has been a great pleasure. And believe me, I personally feel like going on and listening to all of you, but I understand you have to go and attend to more urgent things. So I'll give the last word to Mr. Sadhu Khan. Mr. Sadhu Khan, having listened to detailed perspective from the three, industry leaders, what are the final words you would like to say?
Thanks, Kapil. So I think to just sum it up, I would say that the one good thing is that everybody is showing clear signs of having overcome or at least having got ready for the next journey, and I don't think the resiliency is under question at all. The entire industry has demonstrated them that one thing time and again. And I think the backbone for that has been, as I had said earlier, also the IT teams, the ability of the IT teams to continue running the business irrespective of the challenges that have come up, and irrespective of the new normals, the new situations that have been thrown at the team. Everybody was talking about how they have been able to, or they are already working on making legacy systems work with the new age applications, how new areas, Mr. Khan was talking about how they are now planning to look at a loyalty based program, or a SAP migration. These are areas that definitely Micro Focus also focuses on. I don't want to make this a sales discussion, but then many of the areas that we talked about today, RPA, AIML, the whole fact about how do we make data give us better results, how do I use predictive analytics, how do I ensure that the security is not compromised. These are areas that also are focus areas for Micro Focus. And what I would say is that it would be great if we could connect later, as and when you have situations that you think Micro Focus can partner with you. Otherwise, these discussions definitely give us many more thoughts that we ultimately funnel it back to our product management, our R&D teams, about what the industry is facing, and that helps us a lot. So that's what I had to say, Kapil.
So thank you so much, all four of you, Mr. Khan, Mr. Bomik, and Mr. Kumar, and of course, Mr. Sadhu Khan. I personally learned a lot. Uh, I mean, your experience speaks when you share your perspectives, and it has been very, very enlightening. I hope it has been interesting to all of you. And I see all four of you as friends for life for me, and we will again touch base. I thank you from the bottom of my heart to take out time and being there, despite the fact that we have overrun by 15 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Yogesh Kumar. Thank you, Mr. Jayanta
Thank you.
Momik. Thank you, Mr. Farhan Khanji. And thank you, Mr. Sadhu Khan.
Bye,
Thank
sir.
you.